Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? I'm so glad you tuned into this broadcast. It is going to be powerful as we're getting breaking news. Everybody's trying to keep their hands around this ever-expanding coronavirus story, really, and it affects on China, certainly, and Asia, but what about the whole global market? Well, welcome to this broadcast. We've got our expert with us today, Colin Plume from NobleGoldInvestment.com. Before we bring him on, let me just tell you what's happening. There is a supply chain China chaos. The chaos of the coronavirus is unfolding now on the ports in China as there is thousands of containers full of frozen meat sitting on the dock. And they don't have enough electricity to keep them all frozen, and they're now worried about what that means. New evidence from Bloomberg reveals that the cracking global supply chains are fast emerging at major Chinese ports, with thousands of containers of frozen meat piling up with nowhere to go. The coronavirus outbreak will remain a dominant issue for the first quarter of this year as supply chain stocks and shock has been felt by multinationals on either side of the hemisphere. Sources tell Bloomberg News that containers of frozen pork, frozen chicken, and frozen beef, mostly from South America, Europe, and the United States, is piling up on the ports, especially in Shanghai and Ningbo and Tianjin, because of a lack of truck drivers. Many of them are detained in quarantine cities and can't get out. Others have the coronavirus, and others are afraid they'll get it. This is becoming the seaports on the Chinese coast are running out of space and do not have enough electricity to keep all the containers frozen. And you know what's going to happen, guys. This food's going to thaw, then they're going to refreeze it, and they're going to sell it anyway. Because if they don't, some of these companies may not make it. Folks, this is a huge problem for China. But what does it mean for the rest of the world, including the United States? Let's find out right now from our good friend from NobleGoldInvestment.com, man with the plan, the expert, Colin Plume. Colin, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And you know what this story means, Pastor Paul? No more meat. Everyone's going to have to start eating kale.
What?
That's what we've decided here.
And they're already doing that to me right now. Okay, it's being self-imposed. So I mean, maybe I'm just getting ahead of the game, okay?
You've been ahead of this for months. You've been on the kale salad diet for months, and it shows. You're looking good, Pastor Paul. I have to say, things are going in the right direction. No, it's on a serious note. I mean, talking about just meat at the borders. That's just one item. I mean, we're talking about thousands of items that have been held that aren't being shipped over here. And then you look at just manufacturing. A lot of these places where the fear and the outbreaks are, they're not working. They don't want to infect people. And so you've had this slowdown in manufacturing on many different levels. And very specifically, I mean, if you want to talk about cryptocurrency, 96% of all the mining of Bitcoin happens in China. Well, guess what? They're not mining like they used to. A lot of these places, they can't work. So the mining has slowed down, and you saw the price of Bitcoin react and jump above 10,000. And, Bitcoin is a great example because there's so much excitement. People want to buy right now, but they can't get access to it. Well, when you can't get access to something that you want, you have a supply and demand issue. What happens with the price?
It's going to go sky high. It's going to keep going up. And there you see it, 10,142. That's what the Bitcoin price is right to the minute. So, Colin, you're on top of it.
And it's so, everything's correlated. And I think that, unfortunately, with the C virus, with the slowdown in manufacturing, with a lot of the things that are happening here in the U.S., the next step, when you see this slowdown, and the Fed is talking about it right now, their reaction to this is always going to be the same. What are they going to do to stimulate? And it's always the same reaction. They're going to cut interest rates, and they're going to expand the money supply. So the value of our dollars, our day-to-day, our salaries, our jobs is going to drop, and they're just going to expand and just kind of throw money at the problem and kick the can down the street. And that's really what we're going to see happen. The Fed is going to lower interest rates in the next few months. And my prediction is they won't say quantitative easing phase 4 because they know that is a negative statement for the economy. But when they're buying back bonds and expanding the money supply, that's in essence what they're doing. So, you can call it a different name, but it's exactly what they're doing in terms of the economy. So these are some of the factors that have helped the price of gold, break through that $1,600 barrier and also push Bitcoin above 10,000, is that investors are seeing this. They know that these things can happen. They can take a few months. This industrial slowdown can take a few months, but they'd rather be early. And then this is the key in any investment. When you're getting out of a market, it's better to be early, a few months early than a few days late. And everybody knows that when it comes to the bear market. So it's something definitely to watch out for. And I think that, listen, I don't want to be doom and gloom, because at the end of the day, the stock market's still really up, and a lot of people are doing really well there. But I also think that it's a good time right now. Everyone's paying tax. Everyone's looking at their accounts. It's a good time to kind of take measure and make sure that everything you're doing is exactly what you want to be doing with your investment portfolio.
Folks, Colin Plume's with us with NobleGoldInvestment.com. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com. You can always pick up the phone and call Colin Plume or his team at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347, especially if you're thinking about your 401ks. You might want to consider a gold IRA or a silver IRA, as they are experts in that to help you roll over. And you're talking about gold at $1,607 an ounce. Colin, I remember when you were on our show, we could go back and look at the archives in November, when gold was around $1,380 an ounce. And I remember you saying, come spring or early first quarter, watch for gold to go over 1,500, maybe even 1,600. And that was before even the coronavirus thing. So you were already anticipating the markets to show. And my question is, and silver's up too, by the way, it's at 1841. So that's jumped a couple dollars like in the last 30 days. Also, Colin, let me ask you, since the Chinese can't get people to work at the factories, their production levels are going to go way down. But the markets here in America are booming. The economy is booming, and the goods and services needs, the demand is up. Do you see the factories in America stepping up their game, hiring more people, and only just fueling this economy?
Well, there's certain things, unfortunately, that are only made in China. There is, for instance, there is a rare earth metal called cesium. Cesium is used, it's one of the most kind of perfect of the rare earth metals, and it's used in jet propulsion. It's used in a lot of military applications. It has a lot of industrial uses in terms of anything that needs to get really hot. It can protect against that. Well, the manufacture or the pulling of cesium in the world, all of that happens in China. See, that's the big problem.
Wow,
the underbelly huge that people don't talk about is a lot of these rare earth metals, and cesium is one of them to look out for. And all that is happening in China. Well, guess what? The manufacturing and the pulling that out of the ground is going to slow down. So a lot of these industries in terms of manufacturing are going to slow down. The next metal that people think could replace cesium in some of these applications, some of the semiconductors and some of the areas where it gets very hot, would be palladium. And we've seen palladium obviously skyrocket. I had a client I talked to who bought palladium from us early last year when palladium was around 1,100, and now we're sitting at about 2,500 for palladium. So I think that there's certain things that industries will have to completely shift if we're not going to get the amount of goods from China. And I think when you look at some of these rare earth metals, it's a little scary that a lot of these are controlled by China, and a lot of them are also, so integral in our infrastructure. So you have, you're going to have a shift. And listen, we have a lot of smart people here in the United States. We have some of the best engineers in the world, and they will come up with alternative uses, and maybe part of it is the reason silver has gone up so dramatically, because listen, silver is used in medical devices. It's used in, I think I talked to you about, they're creating this battery that will be flexible. They have this silver battery that they're working on in Switzerland that you can bend, because you got a lot of grandkids. If you try to put any of those kind of circular batteries in some of those toys, you can't get them out, you can't get them in. They're trying to create a battery that will be flexible for that. So we're working on these ideas, but I think the overall concern, with what's happening is that we're at a very high point right now. People are dumping more money in the stock market, and the SEC is doing a lot of very strange things. The biggest thing that I'm really concerned about that they're passing right now is they're trying to get rid of the accredited investor. And if you don't know what an accredited investor is, that's basically someone that is investing in an asset that is highly risky for the most part. And what they're trying to do is get rid of that qualification. That qualification is a good qualification, because what it does is it limits these types of investments to people that have either make over $250,000 a year or have $1 million in assets. And the reason that this is created is, it obviously makes sense, is that you only want people that have a lot of money to be able to take these risky investments. Well, what the SEC is doing now is they're getting rid of that, and they're allowing people to get into these fractional trading elements. They're getting into a lot of these IPO startups that they weren't able to get into before. And it doesn't make sense. If the economy is so strong, why are we creating all of these elements? Why are we putting more people in danger if just investing in a mutual fund is safe? These are the things, the underbelly of the stock market that people aren't talking about, is getting into these really risky kind of fractional investments that if things turn around, guess what? You could lose everything. So there's a lot of concerning things in our economy right now. On the precious metal side, what's happening with accredited investors, there's a lot of things that people need to watch out for. And I think what they're doing is similar to 2008, when we saw that big bubble, is that there's so much money getting thrown at it. People are they don't care where they're investing. They're kind of investing with their eyes closed, and they don't really know the repercussions, because they can lose everything in some of these riskier investments.
Folks, Colin Plume is with us. Colin Plume from NobleGoldInvestments.com. Just go to their website at www.noblegoldinvestments.com, or you can pick up the phone and call Colin or one of his staff at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Colin, you're bringing out some great points that they want to limit the number of risky investors. And I think of day traders a lot, but they certainly want to watch out for folks who could risk too much in certain areas. A balanced approach is the best for anyone and everyone.
Absolutely.
And I think you've been saying this, that guys, don't put all your savings or your retirement money in the stock market. You should put at least, I don't know, I don't want to be the expert here, 25% maybe, or 15% or maybe more in precious metals. And right now, even though the precious metals are up from where they were 6 months ago, I don't think we've hit the ceiling yet. So, am I right?
And I also urge people to look at what's happening right now. If you look at the actual values of the stock market and you look at the Shiller Price Index, the Shiller Price Index takes the stock price, and then they look at the actual assets and the profitability of the company. It's about half right now. So the Shiller Price Index is saying that the actual values of these companies is about half of what they're trading for. So you have to ask yourself, why is that happening? It's because of these fractional ways that people are investing. For instance, there's a lot of people talking about Tesla. The stock price of Tesla continues to skyrocket, yet there's been no profit. They've actually been losing money for many, many years, yet the price goes up because now investors that can't afford the $400 price of Tesla, they can put $10 into it and kind of hopefully get some of that growth. But what they don't realize, when they own it in a fractional sense, when it drops, they can actually lose a lot more than they invested. So I think that they're creating instruments out there because there's this excitement and everybody wants to get in. But unfortunately, when you're buying at the peak, and we're well past where anybody thought we would ever be at the stock market, you put yourself in danger. What you're saying about gold is right. I mean, we still have about 27 or 28% to go to get to gold's all-time high. Silver is still 60% less than where it was at its all-time high.
What?
So these investments still have room to go up, whereas a lot of the ones that people are jumping on, and this is unfortunate, people jump on these bandwagons and they get in too late, and they just, they think that it's going to go up forever, and it can be pretty scary. And to go back to that accredited investor, I urge people to look at that. This is a new paradigm that the SEC is creating this environment, and I think that we have to be careful. These rules are in place for a reason, and these risky investments need to be looked at very closely, and the people that can invest in them need to look at it very closely, because at the end of the day, like if you only have a certain amount of money and you dump all that money in one of these riskier investments, it's gone. You have nothing left. So we have to make sure that everybody is watching and making sure that these kind of rules protect people.
And folks, this is Colin Plume with us again from NobleGoldInvestment.com. Price of oil has been just holding right at around $54 a barrel, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It means, and of course, Texas is just cranking it out like crazy. Texas, #1 producer of oil now in the world. You think of it, you always thought about how we were so dependent on the Middle East, when the truth is we could have been we could have been ahead of the game so far if we had just jumped out.
Yeah.
But that's under Trump. It's changed, and I think we have to give Trump credit. He's really identified the areas that could strengthen America, and he's done it. What do you think about the debate tonight? I hate to jump subjects, but just real quick. I mean, is this fight night in Vegas? Is it Bernie against Bloomberg, or is Elizabeth Warren going to throw a haymaker? What about Buttigieg? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you look at these, it definitely seems that Bernie's probably going to be the front runner in terms of just, he's been around. He's sort of someone that has a message, whether you agree with it or not. It seems more, at least his message is sort of the same, where a lot of the other candidates have sort of been jumping around a little bit. Yeah, Bloomberg kind of came in late, was a surprise. Obviously, dumping $120 million into ads over the last few months can't hurt, but I just don't know if I think he's been out of the limelight for a little bit too long. I just don't think he's as prominent of a figure where people are going to jump on that, so yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting debate, and this year. It's one of those years where nobody knows where we're going to end up in November, but a lot of people want this economy to keep going, and I think as long as the economy's up, then nothing will change in the White House.
Are you worried about a Bernie Sanders socialist economic plan? Or more, I'm actually more afraid of Elizabeth Warren, and I'm scared to death of Bernie. So, I was wondering about that, because socialism is such a different, you talk about a different mentality from the Trump doctrine. Are you nervous about what in the world that means?
Listen, as a business owner and someone that believes in more of a kind of conservative fiscal policy, I like where things have been. And no, but I don't. I think it would be sort of shocking if there was a change, and I'm not really too. I don't think anything's changing.
Yeah, in other words, even if Bernie wins or Elizabeth Warren wins, the Congress is not going to pass new tax laws and some real radical stuff that could mess up. You just can't go around forgiving all the student debt in one swoop. The president don't have that kind of power.
Right. No. Listen, I think that college is the way that it's set up, and unfortunately the debt has increased for college. But everyone knows if you don't have to pay for something, the value drops, and I think that now. Do I think that we need to do something to slow down the increase? Of course.
Yes.
But making it something where they don't have to repay it, I think it's it doesn't, it flies in the face of reason in my eyes.
Yeah, there may be some reductions and they got to do something, because I think they let this get way out of hand, and now all these kids are going to college. They got a $250,000 bill they owe, and they can't get a job. I mean, obviously something has to be changed in this, but you can't just, Bernie can't show up and wave a goldenrod, and everybody's set free. I mean, this, we crashed so many stuff, but socialism, is way out there when you're talking about heavy taxes on the middle class and the rich. Would wreck the economy. It would stall growth. I mean, it's too radical. And I don't think America is really ready to make a left turn that hard into a brick wall. But let's see. Your thoughts?
I mean, listen, everyone that signs on to the debt knows what they're signing up for. And if you think about it, maybe go to community college for a few years before and cut that debt in half. And then I also think a lot of people are getting into degrees that have no use. And I think that needs to be something that people talk about. And, my wife's in the insurance business, and only in the last, I think 15 years, they actually have degrees for insurance. And obviously that's that's one of the brick and mortars that's not going anywhere. And so I think we need to focus on, and, think about it, only 15 in the last 15 years that you've even had a degree for a business that's, been around forever. So I think we need to get into, focus on industries that are actually going to grow for the future. And some of these, degrees that people are taking, communications, things that are so vague that, really aren't going to create any kind of wealth or bring any kind of value. I think we need to go away with, and I think that'll help tremendously. Or, some industries don't even, a lot of the people that we work with in the marketing and aspect, they literally don't even go. They just, right out of high school, they start creating content and video and learning, and they're actually sort of hindered by going to college, because a lot of the stuff that they're educating them in college about marketing is outdated, because that industry moves so quickly. Look at what you and I are doing. 6, 7, 10, let's say 10 years ago, this was what we're doing today wasn't even a part of the landscape. And now it is, and you and I are doing this as part of our day-to-day, function. We're on a medium that's different than TV. You're reporting the news and giving people your perspective in a much easier way for people to digest. So I just think that we need to move away from the old and focus on really what's happening in today's economy and where the jobs are. And like you said earlier, if we do that, then maybe we'll be less connected to places like China, because we're able to do a lot of the work and create a lot of the products here in the U.S.
Colin Plume, folks, at noblegoldinvestment.com. Colin, there's no question about it. You are an expert in helping people, their 401ks. Can they roll them into these gold IRAs or silver IRAs? Is this where they need to go? With everything going on out there, I just feel like there's uncertainties in the market. That market, how much higher can it go? It's at the highest it's ever been. So precious metals has got...
And I think that, what we've done, obviously, and for people out there that have started the process with us, we know it's taking a little bit longer because of just there's been tremendous demand. And, I have my team working overtime and extra hours because we've just in the last 30 days, almost doubled from the month before just in terms of demand. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I think that we're seeing the big institutions getting a little concerned. They may try to do some things to keep people in some of those traditional investments. But at the end of the day, this is where the world is going. People are moving to conservative investments. They're moving away from, how could anyone reasonably buy a CD or any of these bonds today? It's laughable. So of course people are going to go to different assets like gold that have been around for 5,000 years. And people tell me, oh, it doesn't pay a dividend, and there's all these, but since 2018, gold's up almost 30%. So what do you need? What do you need a 1 or 2% coupon clipper when you've had a 30% growth in the last 18 months? Let's talk about the numbers. And I think that
right now we are a place that people like. I do urge people to be cautious. I do urge people to do all their research and learn about what we do and call us. But I think you'd be hard pressed to not find the big money in the world, central banks, hedge funds, not having at least a portion of gold or silver in their portfolio. And I think more than ever, even cryptocurrencies are becoming a staple. And I wouldn't have said this 3 years ago. People asked me 3 years ago how risky it is, and I'd say on a scale of 10, maybe a 9.5, 9.6. But I think that risk level has dropped tremendously, even in the cryptocurrency space. And so I think a lot of things are shifting towards assets that people aren't really always talking about.
You bring up Bitcoin early in the broadcast. It's at 10,142 right now. I remember just 5-6 months ago, it was at $3,300. I also remember about a year or two, maybe 18 months ago, it was around 20,000. So now that the coronavirus is eating away in China and they can't mine enough Bitcoins, really, do you think we're going back to 20,000 again before the year is over in Bitcoin?
I think 15,000 is really is a number that I'm kind of looking at as
still huge.
Yeah, the demand for the buyers of Bitcoin right now are the institutions. Once the retail market comes in, once you have average investors like you and I, once that jumps too, and it could happen, then I do think 20,000 becomes. But if Bitcoin sort of stays out of the limelight for a while, then I think 15,000 is really the next number that people will see. And I can tell you this, that we have many clients that won't sell it until it gets to 100,000. I've had many conversations with people that say,
what?
I'll wait, I'll give it to my kids because I think it's going to go to 100,000. So they're keeping it in their IRA. So, I would say more conservative than that. If I bought it today and it hit 20 or 25 or 30, I'd probably sell some because, I don't know if it'll hit 100. And, I never think there's a bad time to take a little bit of profit in my eyes. But, there's a lot of people out there that think it's going to go much higher.
Folks, you got to learn about what's going on. And part of the way you have to watch about how the stock market, the currency markets, the precious metals, all these things, you got to watch what's going on in the world events. They do play a role. Change of power of nations, weather patterns, wars, and coronaviruses or things like that. These things do affect everything. And so that's why guys, experts like Colin Plume are so important over at noblegoldinvestment.com. When we talk about it, Collins, we started the program, China, I'm worried about the next phase. It's sort of like, look at it from the Bible. They've had this coronavirus is sort of like the pale horseman of the apocalypse. Now they're getting ready to have their they're really going to get hit hard financially. I don't think America will. I think it's really going to hit China. And that's like the black horseman of the apocalypse. Now when they tell me they got thousands of containers of frozen meat sitting there in the sun thawing, and these guys are going to ship it, refreeze it, and ship it to people. I'm expecting, I hate to say it, but I'm afraid there's going to be another massive flu epidemic behind this. What's your thoughts on it?
Hopefully they don't do what you just said. I think it's scary to think about, that meat kind of coming back on the market. But some of these corporations, like you said, they may go under just because of, the amount of spoilage that they're going to have on the docks. And, it's just, people think about, they think that that's, the only thing that's happening. But if you look at the studies of all the thousands of products that have been held back and that people here in the U.S. haven't been able to buy, it has to affect the economy. There's no way we can't have some kind of effect here. Now, will it have, recession-like numbers, over a 2-quarter period? I don't know. But it's hard to believe that this kind of slowdown with one of our major trade partners is not going to have an effect. And I think, when you look at, the global economy, which is, what we have today, you have to look at what's happening in other parts of the world and factor that of what's going to happen here in the U.S. When we had the collapse in 2008, our financial collapse. Obviously, that triggered, collapse in the whole world, and everybody was having problems. The same thing can happen today in reverse. It can happen in China and then trickle down to here in the U.S. So, I think it's something to watch out for. I think that this information is out there for people to review. And, at the end of the day, what we do, Pastor Paul, is just talk to people. We're one of those places where you can actually talk to a live person. You can buy metals over the phone from us. You buy crypto over the phone. It's not it's not e-commerce. You're buying it from a live person. And I think in this day and age, we're here in the U.S. There's a lot of benefit to working with us. And I think that, whether you're a first-time investor or you've been in this for a while, having someone here that can be involved in the process, someone you can call and ask questions to, is really vital. And we're going to continue to offer that service. And, hopefully people call us and, we can educate them about what we do.
Well, there's no doubt you guys are straight shooters and bring great information. That's why we love doing these interviews with Colin Plume at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's www.noblegoldinvestments.com. Like he said, pick up the phone. Do it now. Pick up the phone and call him right now at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Let Colin Plume or one of his staff, they've been bragging on Andrew. I guess he's one of your staff members. I've been hearing a lot of good things out of him and all those guys, everyone you got working over there, helping our people.
Andrew's been here, one of the longest people at our company, very sound, someone that people can rely on, he's just a very calm voice of reason, and I think he offers a lot of good advice and cares about his clients. He's like one of those guys that every Christmas he's getting gifts and pictures from his clients, so we know he's doing the right thing, and we're lucky to have him.
Well, this is why companies like yours, especially a company like noblegoldinvestments.com, is so important, because it's family owned with Christian values and with people that really care about the customers. And I know you guys look at the overall picture of a person's financial situation before you make your recommendations. You're not just looking to sell precious metals. You're looking to build relationships. And I think that's
Absolutely.
why
we've turned away business too. If there's a situation where we just didn't feel it was right for somebody, and listen, we're not financial advisors. We sell a physical product, but at the end of the day, the way we look at it is we're building a long-term relationship. So whether someone works with us or not, we're going to give them the right sort of advice from our point of view, and then and give them a lot of good information. And we sell the products that people want. The bullion coins and bars, people understand these. They're easy to trade. They have the highest purity. They're products that you're going to be able to sell anywhere in the world. And so we really pride ourselves on that customer service aspect. And then at the end of the day, most of the people that work here, they think they're just, a lot of times they're talking to a friend. They don't feel like it's work, and they really enjoy what we do. And I think as long as we can continue that kind of attitude and mantra, we're going to be, it's going to be very successful. We're going to be around for a long time, and I think we've been able to really help people in the right way.
Colin Plume at noblegoldinvestment.com. Pick up the phone and call him right now at 877-646-5347, or go to their website at www.noblegoldinvestments.com. Colin, thank you once again for being with us. Great insight today. We really appreciate it, and may God bless you and your family.
Thank you, Pastor Paul. Talk to you soon.
All right, folks, we'll be back with more next time right here. Are you serious?